Oh my God. Hello, New York creatives. I can't believe this. This is so exciting. Thank you, Tina. I met Tina because of Ruth Ann Harnish, who you saw on the screen a few moments ago. She is a force of nature. She is also one of the funders of my documentary. So thank you, Tina. I mean, thank you, Ruth Ann. And thank you to the Morgan Library. If I told my 22-year-old self that I was going to be speaking at the Morgan Library someday, I would have been flabbergasted. It's a New York institution for sure. And I want to thank also Gabby. Gabby, I just met Gabby, and how did you know that was my favorite song? That Bill Withers song. I love that song. So I thought I would start warming you up by finding the clicker. Obvious place. Okay. By showing you some cartoons just to get you warmed up. You're pretty warmed up as it is, I think. It's like, I mean, I'm hoping you laugh at these cartoons, but you don't have to. That's just a drawing. Right? That was during the pandemic when we emerged. Also pandemic drawing. It could apply to today as well. I feel the same way right now and in our political situation. Thank you. And since you guys are creatives, you'll find this kind of interesting. I drew this on my iPad. I usually draw on paper when I work for the New Yorker, but I drew this on my iPad because I'd broken my right arm. I'm right-handed. So I taught myself how to draw with my left hand. It's not easy, but if you use the iPad, it's easier. So, and the New Yorker bought it and published it. So this was the first drawing I had in the New Yorker back in the dark ages. They did a lot of sequential drawings back then. And the next one, I thought, I usually don't show this next drawing, was the first one they bought. But since you guys are all artists and creatives of some kind, I'm hoping that you get it. Maybe. It's Cezanne's three principles and then a TV set. That's a TV set. So that was great to sell, but I was kind of nervous because nobody would understand it. But I grew up, I started at the New Yorker in 1979, and I was one of 4 women out of dozens of men at the New Yorker. I didn't set out to be any kind of trailblazer. That's what Tina called me when we talked on Zoom before this event. She called me a trailblazer. I just wanted to be a cartoonist. But for me, trailblazing means a desire to experiment, to explore, to learn, no matter what. And that's what I did from the start. Now, so much was going on in the world during my starting at the New Yorker. It was, as you guys know, historically, it was a really crazy time. And one of those things, Tina said she was going to mention it, but she didn't, was punk. Punk is the theme this month, right? For the Creative Mornings, and punk. So punk is not something I really thought about. It was happening in the time when I was living in New York in the 70s. Frankly, it scared me. They were all about shock and being unpredictable and anger and change and experimentation. And it was part of the culture at the time. Fine art was about conceptual art and all kinds of things like that. And I was watching it. I was not a part of it, but I was certainly influenced by it. And I absorbed all that attitude. My work may not be punk by any means. In fact, I'm probably quite the opposite of punk in my work. I don't try to shock. I try to talk and dialogue with my work. But that ethos at the time helped me to feel that I could do anything, or at least I should try. So the other day, this is a new thought for me. I thought to myself, what if I wasn't supposed to be a cartoonist? At a very young age, I started drawing funny pictures to make my mother happy. I had a supportive family, but like many of us, even in supportive families, there were problems. My mother was an alcoholic, and my sister was a troubled person. Did these forces, make me become who I was, or who I am? Was drawing a way to save myself? With every drawing that I do, am I trying to bring my mother back? Am I trying to connect with her? Am I trying to make her happy with every drawing I do? Am I trying to make you guys happy with every drawing I do? Am I trying to connect with everybody, even now that she's gone? She died in 1977, but I think my mother is here with us because she led me to connect with the world. My mother would clip out those little spot drawings in the New Yorker. You know what I'm talking about? Those little non-cartoon drawings. She clipped those out and saved them in an envelope for me because she was trying to encourage me. Little did she know I wanted to do something bigger than that. I wanted to say something with my art. We got the magazine in our home, and I just loved the cartoons, even though I didn't understand them. I thought they were drawing for me. That was my world. I was a cartoonist since age 7. It's one of my early drawings. It took me a while. This is a James Thurber drawing from an early New Yorker. He was still is one of my favorite cartoonists for the New Yorker. It took me a while studying the drawings. At first in college, I thought, I don't want to be a part of that magazine. It's very stuffy, but it's not. Even back in the 60s and 70s, if you look closely, it was not stuffy. Maybe the liquor ads, the fur ads were stuffy, but the content was quite something. My attraction to the New Yorker, I discovered the nuance of the drawings by studying them, the nuance of the drawings. My attraction became to the New Yorker was that it allowed artists to be who they are. It gave them room to explore. It was political, but in a quiet way. And commentary in the drawings did not force you to think any particular way. This is Steinberg, another one of my favorite influences. Because, despite the word cartoon, it's not always about the joke. It was a political time in the 70s. It's always political, but you can imagine in the 70s how fraught it was with the Vietnam War, Watergate, civil rights, women's rights, assassinations. And I yearned to be political because I wanted to do something with my ability to draw. I didn't think I was allowed to be political because I think I didn't know why. I didn't think I had the opinions. I think that was gendered thinking on my part. My parents were supportive, but the culture didn't seem to be. But the New Yorker was a place that had it all in terms of the drawings for me, from my viewpoint. It had art, commentary, expression, and humor. So I set my sights. This is one of my early political cartoons from high school. She's saying, I can't even remember what she's saying. Hey, guess what? Apathy's out now. Voting is in. Thank you. So my time was, as I became an adult, was just post-second wave feminism, at the height of youth counterculture. The culture told me I didn't have to conform to gender roles. I could be an artist, and that's what I did. The political turmoil at the times, just a few miles from my home in Washington, D.C., made me want to do something with my skills. My parents did think outside of the box. We moved to Rome for a year, and that was incredible. I was 16 years old, and I grew up a Quaker, which guided me to believe that there is light in every single person, and you need to look for that. Look, everybody is unique and worthwhile. In college, I traveled to the Soviet Union, 1976, and drew what I saw. Creativity for me means introspection, of course, but it's so crucial to look outwards, particularly if your goal is, as mine always has been, to connect. So connection's not easy. We know that, either face-to-face or in your art. It's not easy. And I get frequently asked about creative block. Do I get artist block? Well, of course I do. Here's a cartoon about it. You guys can relate, I guess. It comes in either small doses or sometimes in long stretches, and there are always going to be blocks. It's just so you have to accept them as part of the process. And they come for a variety of reasons, sometimes inexplicably. In the mid-1980s, I was not selling well to The New Yorker. It was really tough. Did my editor not understand what I was doing? Was I in a bad place personally? Yes. Was what I was drawing complete rubbish? Submitting to The New Yorker, in case you don't know, is always a lottery. So we all submit every week, and they either buy one or they don't. So it's not like you're assigned something and you get it in there and you get the money. You're a creative person, so you come up with ideas every week, and they pick one, maybe not. Sometimes it can go for months. So that time period was really tough for me. I was not selling. So I decided I would go and become a painter. Great idea, right? And I thought I was pretty good at it. But in essence, it led me back to drawing cartoons, my first love. But I had to go away to come back. Certainly, creative blocks come when the world is the world's in turmoil and turning upside down. For creatives, that's the same principle sometimes, that it's sometimes necessary to go away and come back. You know, if you have a block, people ask me, go get a cup of coffee, go for a walk, talk to a friend, get out of the studio, whatever, do something else and come back. And that can be for short periods or for long periods. Adversity in my childhood home and in the world at large first led me to cartooning. In the 80s and 90s, I'd done some political cartoons for The New Yorker, but I think I was cruising, doing drawings about food, making fun of cartoons. That's a political cartoon, one of my first political cartoons for them. Back when, this is in the late 70s, early 80s, when The New York was even more dangerous, if any of you were here then. It has a different meaning now, I think. But I was doing cartoons about food. New York was becoming a really foodie town in the 80s, and it was they were easy targets. And I made fun of yuppies. And then, in 2001, we were all shaken out of what we were accustomed to. 9/11 was a huge wake-up call for me, and I know millions of other people, not just me, obviously. And I thought I'd stop cartooning. I thought, what am I doing? Why am I doing these silly cartoons? I don't get it. Should I be doing this? And then I did this next drawing, and the New Yorker bought it and ran it. And I felt I was back on track. But I made a commitment to myself to do more with my work, to try to go bigger with my ideas. I made a vow to say more with my abilities, back to my original plan as an 18-year-old. Luckily, these aspirations coincided with the advent of the internet, so I was able to look more and more at what was going on globally. And I turned more globally, but I became frustrated. I'd always assumed that I had to draw about American life since that was my experience. I can't draw about what it's like to be an Afghan woman. I can't. I have no idea. I've always been a feminist, and I searched for connection with women globally in my brain and looking and reading. And I saw that we were connected, sadly, in ways that are not so good. And I drew this cartoon, which was drawn for the internet, so that's why it's for the phone. So we do have something in common, and I started doing more and more political cartoons in that reign, not for the New Yorker, but for the internet. using different types of medium, using, the traditional New Yorker style or the color style. So the role of the creative is to listen and to look. Listen to yourself as to others, but really look at what's going on around you. Art is about evolution. Like, take a painting, and think about it, when it was made, who made it, why did they make it? Like, why did Duchamp put a urinal on the wall? I remember spending hours looking at Rauschenberg. Like, why are they doing that? What does it mean? And it sits in its time period as well. For me, what it meant was to shake things up. New Yorker cartoons were, in their small way, groundbreaking in 1925 when the magazine was founded by a woman and a man, by the way. They took art and combined it with text to tell us about ourselves. A New Yorker cartoon is an instantaneous sharing of a world, of an experience, the artist's experience and the artist's view of us, often with laughter, thankfully. The magazine, as artists, evolved with the changing times to create something new, the New Yorker cartoon, which really didn't exist in the form we know it now, back in 1925. There was humor, of course. There was visual humor. I can go on forever about that, but it was a new thing. Renewal is sparked by a variety of things, be it adversity, in global turmoil, personal turmoil, financial need. All of these things can lead to evolving as a creative, but you have to be open to it. Observe those around you, embrace technology and new methods of creation, which is what I've tried to do. It leads to connections with other people. And isn't that why we do what we do? Really? I've gone from drawing in sketchbooks. I still do this, but this is one of my idea sketchbooks. Words and visuals randomly placed, and it's like a random collision of ideas on a page. And I still draw on paper, but I also draw digitally. This is sped up, by the way. And that's the finished drawing eventually. I started drawing on my iPad in 2014. It was a gift. Somebody gave me an iPad, and I was watching the State of the Union address, and I started drawing what I saw, which can be boring, but I find it kind of fascinating, State of the Union. And I started drawing what I saw and putting it out immediately on Twitter, which when Twitter was a thing. I don't know what it is now. It's something to avoid. And it took off. People really liked these bold drawings. They were bolder than this and simpler than that. It was a quick reaction of something that we were all paying attention to, and that's what led to a lot of the live drawing that I've done over the years. And here's an example of. I'll show you some samples. This is when I worked for CBS, covering the news and awards shows and things like that. CBS had me on their morning show, and I would go in and I would draw the guests and I would draw the hosts, and they would connect me and my drawings with their social media accounts. That's what my purpose was, really. But I got to go to some great places. I was not there, but I drew that from the TV. So I got to go to the Oscars, the Tonys, and also to the White House. I don't know how much of this to show you. Cynthia Erivo. Remember, I try to capture, I don't know, remember when that happened? I try to capture things that you don't expect, like when he jumped into, Spike Lee jumped into his arms. Pharrell. Oh yeah, So that, it's about the experience. It's about sharing something that's happening in the moment. I'm not trying to render things perfectly, and I, in many cases, can't. But I went to the marches, when I started interviewing people and recording as I was drawing and interviewing them at the Women's March, the first one with the pink hats. And then during the pandemic, the Black Lives Matter drawing was done during the pandemic. I wanted community, as we all did. We were stuck at home, and we wanted to talk to other people, not just on the phone. But I took Instagram Live, and I started doing drawings every day at 5 Hi, for everybody. 10 minutes. You there? It's 5 o'clock. It's time to draw. Hi, Kieran. From Dublin, Flat Tar Heel, wherever you're from. Susan Cummings, Gretchen Maslin, my daughter. Hi, Gretchen. Anthony Coombs. Hi, Kieran. So, anyway, how are you? I hope you're safe. Our country is imploding. It's a really disturbing time. I mean, I lived through the 60s and 70s, and this is just as bad. It's frightening, and we don't have a leader. Hello, Alexandra Bowman Art. Hello. Hi. Okay, so I'll turn you around and show you some things and draw. Hi, Kate from Dublin. So I wanted to show you the finished colored piece from yesterday. I did the black line on Instagram and the color on Periscope on Twitter. Remember Periscope? So that's an example of that. And on January 6th, you guys recognize this. I was watching on television and I drew what I could, and this is one of Eugene Goodman when he stopped the insurrection, the insurrectionists from getting in deeper into where the Congress people were. A real hero. So I just drew what I was seeing and put it out there. And I also, in the last couple of years, I decided to go and cover the Trump trials. With the E. Jean Carroll trial, first I went down having no idea if I could get into the courthouse, and lo and behold, I got in, and it was not that difficult. And I drew that trial. They wouldn't let me bring my iPad or my iPhone or my iWatch, nothing electronic, which was really weird. And I went in with paper, and I drew it on paper, drew the trial on paper. In my impressions, I drew not just the actors or the main actors, but the people, the guards. I have just one example of the next trial. I went to the Trump trial, the hush money trial, and caught him sleeping. I was not in the room with him. I was in the side room with other journalists. Could watch him on a monitor, but the whole experience was quite something, and I covered it all in my drawings. But aside from that, I really love doing simple drawings of people, ordinary people. And this is one from the subway, a series of ones from the subway. I live way uptown, so I take the A train, and it's a long ride, so I have time to sketch people on my iPad. And these are from the park. But I love capturing people, ordinary people, and I sometimes even use my iPhone with my finger. It's an example of a I have hundreds of these. It's kind of an obsession of mine. And I continue to do political cartoons. I think political is a way to speak to others about what's going on, and I'm not trying to be overly opinionated in my drawings always. Just a communication that we're sharing something that's happening. And this was during Sandy Hook, I think, and I drew this on my phone with my finger because I was not at home and I just had to respond to it. So I feel very fortunate to be able to do this, to be able to draw and connect with people through my drawings. I have a regular Substack, which I do these every day. I do drawings or writing about politics or just lives, people's lives and humor. And I am very fortunate to have connections with global cartoonists. This was done during the Charlie Hebdo murders when cartoonists were murdered for drawing humor. And I think cartoons and drawings and art can really do good in the world and can help people connect with each other and either commiserate, feel like they have a community, and move on. This is the book Tina referenced, Very Funny Ladies, about the women cartoonists who started in 1925 at the magazine. They were women then. And I wrote that first in 2005 and then did another edition in 2022, because now there are equal numbers of men and women drawing cartoons for The New Yorker, which I think is fantastic. Yeah, worth an applause. And in fact, one of my colleagues is here. Emily Flake is another cartoonist for The New Yorker. So I did this book, and I thought, okay, I don't have to do that anymore. I mean, I've covered that subject. That's, we've broken that little glass ceiling. That's great, and I don't see a reason to talk about it much more. But I decided to do a documentary about it. So it's called Women Laughing, and it will be out this year, later in the fall. It's all about the women cartoonists of The New Yorker, past and present. And there are some of them there. Because we need to hear about their lives, right? We need to hear their perspective, because so many, for much of my career, the first part of my career at least, it was all men drawing humor, right? So we have to hear from women's lives. There's more people of color at The New Yorker drawing cartoons now, and we're hearing from everybody, and humor can make changes, I believe. So why not hear about what people's experiences are and talk about them and share our lives together. And I think that we need to share ideas and concern for everybody. And it's opened up for me an understanding of what it is I do and why I do it. And I think that we have to be constantly creating, and that's how we connect and keep going. Thank you, guys. I'm going to take it.